Hello, everyone. This podcast is going to be very controversial, and the reason for that is we're going to talk about the Marine Commandant, General Eric Smith. And evidently, right after Admiral Fagan was terminated or relieved as the Commandant of the Coast Guard, it just so happened that General Smith was speaking to the Defense Writers Group. And there he was asked a few questions about DEI. But before I get into his response, I just want to talk about General Smith and his background. Now, I don't know him personally because I didn't serve with him, but I do know of his reputation. We're in the Marine Corps around the same time. Unfortunately, he served on the left coast, the west coast, and I served on the right coast, the east coast. Nonetheless, everybody knows about each other's reputation, and the guy's a stud. There's no doubt in my mind. And just to talk about him, he graduated from Texas A&M, was commissioned in 1987, and assigned as a platoon commander in 2nd Battalion, 3rd Marines out in Hawaii. He served in Desert Storm and then went off to the Amphibious Warfare School. And after Amphibious Warfare School, he's assigned to 2-2, 2nd Battalion, 2nd Marines, and then went off to 1st Marine Division and served as Division Operations Officer. Now, I know for a fact Division Operations Officers is a very demanding billet, and they just don't give it to any lieutenant colonel. You got to be pretty shit hot to be assigned as a division operations officer. Division plans officer, they give it to lieutenant colonels like me because a lot of slower battle rhythm because you were servicing plans and stuff. But division ops officer is basically the person that runs the division on a day-to-day basis. So with the division, he went off to Iraq. So while he's a division ops officer, he was shot and in the leg and received a Purple Heart. And and I remember hearing about the incident when that happened because you don't hear about too many lieutenant colonels getting wounded in combat. From there, he went to become the XO of 1st Marines, and after that, he commanded 1st Battalion, 5th Marines, another renowned infantry battalion. And after that, he commanded 8th Marine Regiment and was selected to become a general officer. And then as a general officer, he's commanded the 1st Marine Division. He's commanded 3rd MEF as a 3-star, and was also at Marine Corps Combat Development Command, MCDC we call it, which is really the big command at Quantico, where a 3-star sort of manages all the training and combat development and whatnot. So while there, then he was selected to be the Assistant Commandant of the Marine Corps in 2021, and then in 2023 he became the Commandant of the Marine Corps. So once he became Commandant, he continued on the policies of General Berger, who was really big into DEI. And then also of significance, Eric Smith suffered a cardiac event. He was out running and went down. And then he had, taken to hospital, emergency surgery and whatnot, and he's out of commission for a couple of months. It's amazing that he came back as the Commandant of the Marine Corps. So he's a tough dude. He's no nonsense. But the problem is when he spoke to the Defense Writers Group, he didn't tell the truth, and he got caught at it. And when they asked him a question about the Marine Corps' DEI program, the question, should the Marine Corps' DEI program be scaled back? And remember, he met with the Defense Writers Group right after the inauguration when Admiral Fagan had been relieved. So you got general officers and service chiefs really tap dancing now because they don't know which way to turn, right? Because DEI is sort of taking root in each of the services, and they're trying to distance themselves from it. And unfortunately, when Eric Smith spoke, he basically came out and said, as far as the Marine Corps, they don't have a DEI program. This was an outright lie, and said that the Marine Corps is based on meritocracy. And he also said that we've always been based on meritocracy. Again, another lie. And he got caught up in his lie because then the media, the writers and stuff, started going into the background. And when they started clicking on the Marine Corps website, sure as heck, there's a DEI link on the website, and it talks about the Marine Corps' DEI program. Then the Marine Corps, just like other services, started cleaning up their websites. So all these links were taken down, which is understandable. The right answer, what he should have said is, yeah, we do have a DEI program because the previous administration mandated it. And like good Marines, we follow orders. The new administrations come in, they don't want DEI, we're going to scrub it out. That would have been the logical answer. It's because in this day and age, with everything being online, you can't hide. He knew about a lot of these DEI programs, not only as Assistant Commandant of the Marine Corps, but also the Commandant of the Marine Corps, and he supported them, as he should have at the time. Okay? But the issue is this. You can't just claim that the Marine Corps doesn't have a DEI program. So when you go back and look at the Marine Infantry Officers course, this is a 13-week course, and it's a ball buster. I'll tell you what, it's not an easy course. And so the Marine Corps between 2012 and 2015, Dokowitz was really on the Marine Corps, and we've talked about Dokowitz before. In a previous podcast, we talked about women drill instructors. So if you go back to podcast 66 and look at that, we discussed Dokowitz, right? So Dokowitz is this organization, and their job is to basically ensure that women get equal opportunity across the board, across all MOSs in the Marine Corps. So they're really focused on the drill field and on the infantry battalions in the Marine Corps. So Dokowitz has been on the Marine Corps since 2012, wanting female Marines in infantry units, and especially as infantry platoon commander. So the Marine Corps kind of pushed back and said, we can't have women in the infantry. But finally, the Secretary of Defense and Dokowitz came down and said, hey, you got to start, playing ball. So the Marine Corps basically did a study to see if women can make it through the infantry officers course. And in that study, there were 29 women that attempted the infantry officers course. Now, bear in mind, this is not an easy course. It's not an easy course for male Marines either. And the total pass rate was 0. Not a single woman officer passed the course at the time. At the same time, we had 978 male officers went through the infantry officers course, and only 692 graduated, which is a pass rate of about 67%. So you've got 33% failure rate, right, amongst male officers. So then what happened was after that people started writing articles that, the standards that were implemented by the infantry officer course were too high, and a local commander implemented them, and they're really not really combat standards, right? This is all just horse shit. And unfortunately, some of the generals that made these comments, I personally know them, and I can't believe that they would say shit like this. Because, when I knew them, they were warriors. So they went back and looked at all the standards in the infantry officers course and started bringing these standards down. And for example, there's a combat endurance test at the infantry officers course. And as part of this test, it's just a ball buster. I mean, there's no other way to say it, You got loads of 150 pounds. You're doing a hike of 7.5 miles time march. And at the end, you got to climb a rope, 20 feet high, that type of thing. And, most men were having trouble keeping up with this. And the women just couldn't carry the load, and they were getting injured. So the general officers in the Marine Corps at the time said, well, we're injuring lieutenants, so we got to bring the standard down. So they brought the standards down. So it went to like 6.8 mile, the hike became. And instead of carrying 150 pounds, they said you could pass around amongst your squad that 150 pounds. That's how they tried to dilute the standards per se. And their thinking was because the existing standards, infantry officer course, aren't really realistic. I call horseshit to that. And the reason being is you don't know what combat's going to be like. See, the reason you have these standards is because you want the toughest leaders out there that are mentally and physically tough. Just like you can make the same argument that in BUDS, you'll never have a Hell Week in combat, so let's just do away with the Hell Week so we get more graduates. Well, that logic doesn't resonate with me, right? Because you want to test to the highest limits. That's the standards. Got to be the highest limits of combat, not in the middle, not the lowest, because you don't know when you're going to need it, right? And your Marines deserve mentally tough and physically tough leadership. That's absolutely a requirement to be an infantry officer, and I can tell you that from experience. So nonetheless, in 2017, the Marine Corps graduated the first female Marine infantry officer, and she made it through the course, and my hat's off to her. I mean, I'll tell you what, it ain't an easy course, kick my butt. So Lieutenant Marina Harold made it through and graduated as the first woman, was assigned to Infantry Battalion, and by all indications, she did quite well. Then she left the Marine Corps and went off to medical school. So this was a tough woman. She probably kicked my ass, but that's fine. I need a good ass kicking once in a while. So what the Marine Corps did was they still had a high attrition rate. So the Commandant of the Marine Corps then made a decision saying that if any woman officer that wants to attempt the infantry officer's course should be allowed to. I think is another horse shit, right? Because normally all the male officers are second lieutenants. And the reason being is it's part of their growth process. But if you send, a captain there that's been in the Marine Corps 5-7 years, it's a different outcome, right? And is that what we really want? When they made these changes in the infantry officers course, the graduation rates started going up. The Marine Corps evidently had a policy that they wanted the officer attrition to go down to around 35% instead of being over 60. In 2023, there were 7 women officers that attended the course and 4 graduated, right? And then in 2024, there were 8 that attended the course and 5 graduated. So everybody, these graduation numbers are going up. Now, what's the issue with that? The issue really is what type of officer are we sending to the operating forces in the infantry units? The best officer that the infantry officer course can produce, is that officer better than the ones we used to have that did everything the hard way? And let me tell you something. Combat is unpredictable. You don't know what the hell's going to happen. I remember at one time, we're in this sustained operation for like 17 days, every day getting in a gunfight with the enemy, and the enemy continued to retreat, and they went up this mountain that was around 9,500, 10,000 feet. And, I ain't backing down. I'm going up that mountain and hunting them down. That's the bottom line. And guess what we did? We dismounted all our heavy weapons, and we humped up the mountain. We had to, get donkeys and stuff to, pull all our comm gear and our 50 cal machine guns and all that. And we went straight up the damn mountain. Even my local Afghan militia commander, John Mahmoud Khan, said, "Hey, I'm not going up there." I said, "That's fine, John Mahmoud Khan. You can sit down here as a coward. I'm going up there with my Marines." And we went up there, and sure as shit, we got in a brawl with the enemy. And, B1s had to be called in, and, my air officer and his fax did a fantastic job. And we bombed the crap out of the enemy, and, it was exactly what needed to be done. So you don't know what's going to happen in combat. So you got to train for the worst case scenario. And in my opinion, I always told the Marines this: your training is going to be harder than combat. I promise you that. And that's the way we train. And there was no letting back. If you train hard to standards and you teach young officers how training ought to be done and how tough it should be, then you're doing the Marines a great service, because they're going to go to the operating forces and train their Marines in the same manner. And in so doing, they're going to bring Marines back home alive. That's the whole idea behind all this. But if you're going to train them in a manner that's kind of just soothing and comfy, and, you got a nice hot cocoa in the evening, and, you get a shower, and you can change your uniform, you can change your clothes, you can do your hair, you can do your nail polish and shit. That's not what combat is all about. We want people that are tough, that are mentally and physically tough, and they are relentless when they get in a gunfight. They don't stop for nothing. It doesn't matter if your pack weighs 80 pounds or weighs 150 pounds. Once you get in close combat with the enemy, there's only one answer: kill the son of a bitch. That's it. And the other issue is you want second lieutenants, because these second lieutenants are the ones that go to the Fleet Marine Forces, the operating forces, and become platoon commanders. So the reason I'm diving into the infantry officers course is because in 2019, the CG commanding general of Marine Corps Combat Development Command was, guess who? Eric Smith. Eric Smith supported all this horse shit. And he knows better. He's an infantry officer. He's commanded at all levels of command in the infantry. But, they just kind of went along to get along and allowed this to happen to the infantry officers course. And I think, so he knew about it. He knew about that, it is a DEI said another way through Dukowitz that happened. And the Marine Corps is promoting this stuff. Now, let's get down to really the DEI part. Just a few weeks back, I did a podcast on women drill instructors, podcast number 66 that you can view. And in that podcast, I discussed the folly, the stupidity of having women drill instructors for all male platoons. It's just asinine, in my opinion. And guess who's the Commandant of the Marine Corps that's doing this? Eric Smith. So my point is, if Eric Smith knew about the dilution of standards in the infantry officers course to make it easier for women to pass, isn't that DEI? And then he willingly established a program for women drill instructors to be in all male platoons. That's DEI, is it not? So then the issue really comes down to is, why did he make a statement like that? Why would the Commandant of the Marine Corps, a four-star general, just outright lie to the press and say, oh, the Marine Corps doesn't have a DEI program and everything is based on meritocracy? That's a bold-faced lie. And it really comes down to what should happen. Because there's a lot of people that are calling for him to be fired or for him to resign. And once you tarnish your integrity, or you make you make these political statements, you lose credibility, because that young Lance Corporal out there in the Fleet Marine Force is looking up to you, and he wants a general officer that's got a spine, that's got an iron rod spine, and is going to say exactly what the politicians and those in power need to hear. And unfortunately, because of the termination of Admiral Fagan, all the general officers started tap dancing and cleaning up their websites and make statements that were outright lies. And we can't have that in the military. So, I don't know where you guys stand on this issue. If you feel that he lied, and should he be held accountable? Should he resign, or should Pete Hegseth and the President of the United States terminate his services? Tell me in your comments. This is a controversial issue. It's close to home for me as a Marine, and it's close to home to most Marines. But integrity, I was always taught, was first and foremost as an officer. And unfortunately, we see too many officers, especially at the senior level, violating their integrity for a variety of reasons, for careerism, or to protect the institution. But at the end of the day, I believe that integrity is far more important than the institution, because the institution will carry on, right? But without integrity, you undermine the trust and confidence that those young Marines, soldiers and sailors and airmen have in our senior leadership. And we can't have that. So finally, I really enjoy making these videos and doing the research and then sharing the results of that research with you all. And I appreciate if you could just hit the like button, subscribe, or share the link with a friend. And, so we can continue to grow the Sentinel team. That's all I got. Stay rugged, stay united. Con out.